The new penny, later called new pence, 1p coin of 1979 from the United Kingdom, is part of the decimal coinage system introduced after Decimal Day, a major monetary reform that replaced the old pounds, shillings, pence system with a simpler base, 10 structure. This particular coin was issued during the reign of Elizabeth II, whose portrait appears on the obverse front of the coin. The inscription surrounding her portrait reads Elizabeth II DG REG D, which is a Latin abbreviation standing for De Gratia Regina Fidei Defensor, meaning by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith. This title has been traditionally used by British monarchs for centuries and reflects both the historical and constitutional role of the sovereign as head of the Church of England. The portrait used on the 1979 coin is known as the second portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machin, and it depicts the Queen wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, giving the coin a refined and classical appearance that collectors often admire. On the reverse back of the coin, you'll find the crown portcullis design, which is a historic symbol associated with the Palace of Westminster and British governance. This design was created by Christopher Ironside, who was responsible for many of the decimal coin designs introduced in 1971. Above the portcullis is the inscription New Penny, although by 1979 many coins were transitioning toward the wording 1 penny, and below it is the date 1979, indicating the year of minting. The 1979 1p coin is made from bronze, specifically an alloy of copper 97%, tin 0.5%, and zinc 2.5%. Giving it its characteristic reddish-brown color. It weighs 3.56 grams, has a diameter of 20.32 millimeters, and features a plain edge. During this period, the coin was struck in large numbers by the Royal Mint, primarily to meet the demands of everyday circulation across the UK. While not considered rare, coins from 1979 can still hold numismatic interest, especially if they are in uncirculated or proof condition. The value of such a coin in general circulation is typically just face value 1 penny, but collectors may pay slightly more for coins with exceptional preservation, mint luster, or errors. The year 1979 itself is notable historically in the UK, as it marked the election of Margaret Thatcher, the country's first female prime minister, which adds contextual interest for collectors who appreciate coins tied to significant historical periods. Over time, the terminology on British coins evolved, and the phrase new penny was eventually replaced with 1 penny in 1982 to reflect that the decimal system was no longer new. However, coins like the 1979 issue remain a snapshot of the transitional era in British currency history. Collectors often examine such coins for details like strike quality, die alignment, and any variations in lettering or design. Additionally, environmental factors such as oxidation can affect the coin surface, sometimes creating darker patinas that may either enhance or reduce its appeal depending on collector preference. Overall, the 1979 new penny is a modest, yet historically rich piece of everyday currency that reflects the modernization of Britain's monetary system, the enduring symbolism of the monarchy, and the artistry of late 20th century coin design. Next top. The 1981 new penny, 1p coin of the United Kingdom, is a fascinating piece of modern British numismatic history, representing both the continuation of the decimal currency system and a transitional phase just before an important change in coin inscriptions. This coin was issued during the reign of Elizabeth II, whose effigy appears on the obverse front. The surrounding inscription reads Elizabeth II DG REG D, a Latin abbreviation for De Gratia Regina Fidei Defensor, which translates to by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith. This traditional royal title reflects centuries of British monarchy and emphasizes the sovereign's constitutional and religious role as head of the Church of England. The portrait used on the 1981 coin is the second definitive portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machin, first introduced in 1968 and used on decimal coins after Decimal Day in 1971. In this portrait, the Queen is shown wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, facing right, with a youthful yet formal depiction that remained in use until 1984, making it one of the most recognizable images in British coinage history. On the reverse back of the 1981 coin is the iconic crown portcullis design, created by Christopher Ironside. The portcullis, a gate-like symbol historically associated with the Palace of Westminster and the authority of Parliament, is topped by a crown, reinforcing the connection between monarchy and governance in the United Kingdom. Above this design appears the inscription New Penny, and below it the date 1981. The wording New Penny is particularly significant because 1981 was among the final years this phrase was used. In 1982, the inscription was officially changed to 1 penny to reflect that the decimal currency system was no longer considered new. Therefore, the 1981 issue stands as one of the last representatives of this transitional naming convention, which adds a subtle layer of historical importance for collectors and enthusiasts. The coin itself is composed of bronze, an alloy consisting of approximately 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin, giving it its distinctive reddish-brown appearance. It weighs 3.56 grams, has a diameter of 20.32 millimeters, and features a plain, smooth edge. These specifications remained consistent for British 1p coins minted before the composition was later changed to copper-plated steel in 1992. The 1981 1p coin was struck by the Royal Mint, which is responsible for producing coinage for the UK and many other countries. Large quantities of these coins were minted for general circulation, meaning they are relatively common today and typically hold a face value of 1 penny unless found in exceptional condition, such as uncirculated or proof versions. However, collectors may still value this coin for its historical context, especially as part of a complete date run or a collection focusing on pre-1982 new penny issues. From a broader historical perspective, the early 1980s in the United Kingdom were a period of economic challenge and transformation, occurring during the premiership of Margaret Thatcher. Coins like the 1981 penny circulated widely during this time, passing through countless hands in everyday transactions, making them tangible artifacts of daily life in that era. Over the decades, many of these coins have developed varying degrees of wear, toning, and patina due to circulation and environmental exposure. Some collectors appreciate the deep brown or even slightly darkened surfaces that result from oxidation, while others prefer the original bright luster of freshly minted coins. Occasionally, minor minting errors, such as off-center strikes or die variations, can increase a coin's desirability and value, though such examples are relatively rare for this issue. In summary, the 1981 new penny is more than just a low-denomination coin. It is a small but meaningful piece of British history. It reflects the legacy of Elizabeth II, the artistic contributions of designers like Arnold Machin and Christopher Ironside, and the broader economic and cultural context of the United Kingdom in the late 20th century. As one of the last coins to bear the inscription New Penny, it marks the closing chapter of a transitional period in British currency, making it a noteworthy item for both casual collectors and serious numismatists alike. Next top. The 1984 1 penny, 1p coin of the United Kingdom is an historically interesting piece within modern British coinage, representing a period of transition not only in inscription, but also in portraiture during the long reign of Elizabeth II. By 1984, the wording on the reverse had officially changed from New Penny to 1 penny, a change first introduced in 1982, marking the full normalization of the decimal currency system that began with decimal day. On the obverse of the 1984 coin, the inscription still reads Elizabeth II DG REG FD, the traditional Latin abbreviation for De Gratia Regina Fidei Defensor, meaning by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith. This phrase reflects centuries of royal tradition and underscores the monarch's dual constitutional and religious role in British society. What makes the year 1984 particularly notable is that it marks the final year of use of the second portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machin. This portrait, first introduced in 1968, depicts a relatively youthful queen wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, and it became one of the most familiar and widely circulated images of the monarch across the Commonwealth. Later in 1985, this portrait would be replaced by a more mature depiction by Raphael Maclaf, making the 1984 coin the closing issue of the Machin portrait era. The reverse back of the coin continues to feature the classic crowned portcullis design created by Christopher Ironside. The portcullis, historically associated with the Palace of Westminster and often used as a symbol of Parliament, is topped with a royal crown, symbolizing the authority and unity of the British state. Above the design is the inscription 1 penny, and below it is the date 1984. This design has remained largely unchanged since its introduction with decimal coinage in 1971, making it one of the most enduring and recognizable motifs in British numismatics. The coin was struck by the Royal Mint, which has a long-standing history of producing coins for the UK and other nations. The 1984 penny was minted in large quantities for everyday circulation, ensuring that it became a common part of daily transactions throughout the country. In terms of physical characteristics, the 1984 1 penny coin is made of bronze, composed primarily of copper, 97%, with small amounts of zinc, 2.5%, and tin, 0.5%. It weighs 3.56 grams, has a diameter of 20.32 millimeters, and features a plain edge, consistent with other pre-1992 British pennies before the composition was later changed to copper-plated steel. The coin's reddish-brown color can vary depending on its condition and exposure to environmental factors over time. Coins that have been in circulation often develop a darker patina due to oxidation, while uncirculated specimens may retain their original bright luster. Collectors often assess such coins based on their condition, strike quality, and any unique characteristics, such as minting errors. Those standard 1984 pennies are generally common and not particularly rare. The broader historical context of 1984 in the United Kingdom adds another layer of interest to this coin. It was a time of significant social and economic change under the leadership of Margaret Thatcher, whose policies were reshaping the British economy and society. Coins like the 1984 penny circulated widely during this period, making them small yet tangible artifacts of everyday life in a transformative era. For collectors, the 1984 1 penny holds particular appeal as it represents both the end of the Arnold Machin portrait series and the continued use of the 1 penny inscription, solidifying the post-decimal identity of British currency. While its monetary value remains just 1 penny in circulation, its historical, artistic, and symbolic significance makes it a noteworthy addition to any coin collection, especially for those interested in the evolution of British coinage and the enduring legacy of Elizabeth II at next top. The 1987 1 penny, 1p coin of the United Kingdom is a representative example of late 20th century British decimal coinage, reflecting both continuity and gradual change during the long reign of Elizabeth II. By 1987, the decimal system introduced on Decimal Day had been fully established for over 15 years, and the terminology 1 penny had already replaced new penny, a change made in 1982, confirming that the system was no longer new, but a permanent part of British economic life. On the obverse front of a 1987 coin appears the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II along with the inscription, Elizabeth II DG Reg of D, a Latin abbreviation for Dei Gratia Regina Fidei Defensor, meaning, by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith. This title reflects the monarch's historic and constitutional position, including her role as Supreme Governor of the Church of England. Unlike earlier coins from the 1970s and early 1980s, the 1987 penny features the third portrait of the Queen, designed by Raphael Machin. Introduced in 1985, this portrait presents a more mature and dignified image of a queen wearing the royal diadem, symbolizing the passage of time and the evolution of her public image. The Machin portrait would remain in use until 1997, making it a defining feature of British coins from this era. On the reverse back of a 1987 coin is the enduring crowned portcullis design created by Christopher Ironside, which has been a central motif of the British penny since decimalization. The portcullis, a medieval gate associated with fortifications and later adopted as a symbol of the Palace of Westminster, represents parliamentary authority and national identity. It is topped by a royal crown, reinforcing the unity between the monarchy and the state. Above the design is the inscription 1 penny, and below it the year 1987. This simple yet symbolic design has remained largely unchanged for decades, making it one of the most recognizable coin designs in the United Kingdom. The coin was struck by the Royal Mint, which is responsible for producing all official British coinage, and has a history dating back over 1,000 years. In 1987, large quantities of pennies were minted for everyday use, ensuring that the coin became a common part of daily transactions across the UK. In terms of technical specifications, the 1987 1 penny coin is made of bronze, consisting of approximately 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin. It weighs 3.56 grams, has a diameter of 20.32 millimeters, and features a plain edge, consistent with all British pennies produced before the material change in 1992, when copper-plated steel began to be used instead of bronze. The coin's color ranges from bright reddish-brown in uncirculated condition to darker brown or even chocolate tones in circulated examples due to oxidation over time. Because the 1987 penny was produced in large numbers, it is generally considered common and usually holds only its face value unless it is in exceptional condition, such as uncirculated or proof quality. However, collectors may still seek out high-grade examples or coins with unusual minting errors, such as off-center strikes or die flaws, which can increase their desirability and value. The historical context of 1987 also adds interest to this coin. It was a period during the leadership of Margaret Thatcher, marked by economic reform, privatization, and significant social change in the United Kingdom. Coins like the 1987 penny circulated widely during this era, making them everyday objects that now serve as small historical artifacts of life in late 20th century Britain. For numismatists, the 1987 1 penny is particularly notable as part of the Raphael Maklauf portrait series, representing a mature phase in the depiction of Queen Elizabeth II and a stable period in decimal coin design. Although it may not be rare or highly valuable in monetary terms, its significance lies in its historical continuity, artistic design, and its role as a widely circulated piece of currency during an important period in modern British history, making it a meaningful addition to collections focused on British coinage or the legacy of Elizabeth II.